Okay, so today you got two handouts. Obviously, we've got exercise 119, which is what we'll be working on today, but it really is a lot about your assignment 105, which you just got. So you all should have turned in assignment 104. We move on to assignment 105, which is your AutoCAD assignment. And I'm going to go through the assignment, and I'm also going to pull up some information about the sites themselves, which is available either on the assignment page at the bottom. There's a zip file of site information, or at the bottom of today's exercise, it's the same zip file, either one. So it doesn't matter which one you're going to. I'll download that and show you that in just a second. But I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing as part of this assignment. So this assignment pertains to AutoCAD. You're going to be drawing a floor plan or 4 elevations of your building. You're more than welcome to have multiple stories in your building, in which case you'll have 2 floor plans. And a lot of people end up doing single-story buildings, which is fine. It's really up to you. Elevation or side views of the building, we're going to talk about how do you construct them and how do you fold them out and what have you. I'm not expecting perfect accuracy when you do the side elevations. My guess is that you'll do the floor plan first, and then you go to do the elevations, and you'll realize that the roof doesn't quite do what you thought it did, and you'll evolve. We are then going to take this assignment further. I'll talk about the input of this assignment, but ultimately you're going to be doing the same project in SketchUp. So we're going to do this twice. You'll learn a lot in the SketchUp file, but I want to teach you AutoCAD into SketchUp too. So that's why we're starting with AutoCAD and moving forward. Anyway, the end product of this assignment is going to be a 24-inch by 36-inch sheet that has your floor plan and your 4 elevations on it. We will talk about laying it out, etc. We will also then take that whole sheet into Illustrator and collage over it and trick it out, make it look nice and that sort of thing. You will turn in a digital version of this to me online like we've always been doing, but as part of this assignment, you will also print a 24 by 36 on the plotter in the back of the room. The goal here is that you will all, by the end of this, understand the intricacies of plotting and how it doesn't always work the way you want it to and that sort of thing. But it's important for you guys going forward to have the skill of being able to plot your drawings. So I'm not actually grading the plotted version, much like I don't actually grade the printed versions that you give me, but this is a skill that you need to have going forward. So I want you to be aware that that's part of this. If all of you come in the morning before it's due and try to plot, you will not get your print. Furthermore, unlike any of the previous assignments where I'm like, oh, just turn in the printed version later or whatever, this is a hard deadline printed version. It's part of the assignment. It's really important that you learn how to print. Therefore, if you don't hand me the printed version, it will be marked late. Does that make sense? So I just want to make sure I'm nice and clear on that. So the printed version, the plotted version, full 24 inches by 36 inches, you have to hand to me at the start of class when it's due, which is, I need to double check, November 15th. So we got a little time. Part of the reason that you have a little time is because I know the plotting takes time. Okay. So, but it's really important that you understand that. Yeah. Absolutely. We'll revisit the portfolio, I promise. But yes, that's something that should always be floating in the back of your head. And if you have a little extra time, you finish something a little bit early, bring in, you now have your first 2 assignments, but you have a poster that you'll get the grades back on today, and you have your Charlie Harper. So now you have 4 things of 7 or 6 that are going to go in there. So you can start putting more in and that sort of thing. OK, so let's talk about what this is, and then I'll show you the site in just a second. You are being asked to design a cabin for a young couple. The cabin's going to be in Yosemite, which is great. The reason I picked Yosemite is because there's lots and lots of pictures. In an ideal world, if I gave you a design assignment, we'd go visit the site. And as much as I would like to go to Yosemite with all of you, it's not quite in the cards. So because of that, and because it's not in the cards, and we don't have time to do the field trip, I picked something that has a lot of pictures. So if you've never been to Yosemite before, you can look up the pictures, and there's lots and lots and lots of them. So you should get a pretty good sense of the site. Obviously, it's a national park, so you wouldn't actually be able to do this. But in the hypothetical world, have fun with it. Okay? I did give you a program. So you have a husband and wife. They have no children, and they've requested the following in their cabin: 2 bedrooms and a bathroom for approximately 400 square feet. A living space with a fireplace and windows that, quote, capture the site, 200 square feet there. A kitchen that's open to the living space, about 150 square feet or so. A dining space of approximately the same, 150 square feet. Your square footage should be less than 1,000 square feet. And am I going to go in and do a calculation of your square footage? No. So if you have 1,050 square feet, no big deal. If you have 3,000 square feet, we have a problem. Okay, so we want approximately in that ballpark. So this is relatively small. I'm forcing you to design relatively small. That's the idea. That's the living space. So if you have exterior space, we'll call that free. You can have exterior decks and that sort of thing, and it won't count towards your square footage. Though, if you have a 1,000 square foot house and 3,000 square feet of deck, there's probably a problem. Okay, so with this is within reason. Okay, so I'd say maybe 500 square feet of deck is kind of in the reasonable realm. If you want more than that, let's talk. So we're going to do an evaluation of the site next, and then you're going to today start your floor plan for this building. And so part of my goal here is that instead of giving you arbitrary exercises like the one you had last class, where I just give you something and you repeat and you draw that thing, I want you to be thinking about design and trying to solve your own problems and or asking me, hey, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Something like AutoCAD is such a complicated piece of software that if I just script it for you, yeah, you can follow along the steps and you can get through it, but you won't actually learn to use it. And so the goal here is that you have to figure out how to use it. And so I'm going to be obviously here helping you through these things, but much of what we're doing today is similar to what we did last class. So you've already drawn walls, you've already drawn doors, you've already drawn windows. So you're doing the same kind of thing today, but in your own design. Okay? So let's take a look at the sites now before we get further along here. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter whether you're in exercise 119 or assignment 105. At the very bottom, there's a zip of the site information. And if you download that, inside of it is an AutoCAD file, which we're going to open up in just a second. But there's also a Kmz file, which is a Google Earth file, which will give us some background information about the building or the site if it opens. I think I have to extract it because it's not opening here. Come on. I did actually open Google Earth yesterday or on Monday and confirm that this worked. So of course it wouldn't work, right? It's not even listed.
A real view of a real place. Yeah, it's Google Earth.
Yeah, it's Google Earth.
Wasn't it like CGI?
Because they've adapted what they think are trees and contours and stuff. Yeah, it is a real place. You gotta love this, right? How am I supposed to explain this to you? Is it opening for you guys? Yeah, of course, right? And it wouldn't open for me. I mean, so I'll restart in just a second, but in the interest of time and getting you guys started while we wait for my computer to restart and whatever, I'm going to go ahead and open up that AutoCAD file that's also with the Kmz file. Some of you already opened up the Google Earth file so you can explore. Once I restart, I will come back and talk you through the site itself. But watch, AutoCAD's not going to load for me either. It's going to be one of those days. Nope, I got AutoCAD at least. I created this file out of Rhino originally, so that's why this little thing pops up. You can just say continue opening the DWG file. And what we're looking at here is a set of contours that represent the building site that you can build on. These contours are 1 foot apart. So every contour goes up one foot. So it's not a huge slope. It's reasonably flat. You know, you can build your building in a reasonable location and not have too much steepness to it. So it's relatively solvable. You don't have to, for example, have a split level because this hill's so steep. The hill goes up as you go down, if that makes sense. So this side is higher than that side. This is lower. This is higher. There is a creek that goes right down through the little loops. So there's a creek that goes right through there. And most of the people build right about in here somewhere. But again, anywhere in this side is up to you. These are obviously close together and are very steep. This is relatively flat. So chances are you're going to build in the relatively flat side. A couple notes before you start drawing. It doesn't really matter right now that we work on it, but I want to point out that there are layers and that your contours here are on a layer called topography. There's also a layer called 0. For today, I'd like you to be drawing on 0. And so right now the layer is set for topography at the top here. If you click on topography and you switch to 0, if you just click on the 0, your layer will change and it won't say topography anymore. It'll stay 0. I'm getting to that. Okay. So once you're switched to 0, look at the topography layer and you see that little lock icon, that little padlock. If you click on that padlock on the topography icon, it will lock so that you can't select and or move. You can actually select them, but you can't delete them or move them or anything. They'll be locked. And so as you're drawing over the top of it, that's useful. Okay. So once again, I made sure that I'm on layer 0 and that topography has the little lock icon, the padlock covered. We will talk at length with layers and what you can do with layers, but it's not something you have to worry about yet. We're only drawing the floor plan. We'll get to layers as you go forward from here. So this is your file. This is what you're going to start drawing in. When you're done, make sure you do a save as. So I'll click. There's two icons up here. There's a save, and then there's a save as. I'll click the save as so that I can rename this and put it in my flash drive. And what are we on? 119? And we'll call this fall of 2017. And I'll go ahead and save. This is an AutoCAD DWG file, which you need to open in AutoCAD. Recognize, of course, because this is ultimately going to be part of your assignment, saving the AutoCAD file is really important. So it's worth saving it early and often when you start working. AutoCAD does crash. It's gotten a lot better than it ever used to be, but it does crash. If you have your file saved, AutoCAD also writes temporary save data to your same location. So if it were to crash, it can recover itself most of the time. If you've never saved the file, though, it won't write that data. So you have to start with a save. So make sure you do a save early in the process. So I'm going to go ahead and restart and see if I can get my Google Earth file to come up so I can talk you through the site there. Bear with me for the 5 minutes it's going to take this to happen. Yep.
AutoCAD, you have the grid, you'd be in a different space, but now we're in a photography space with these lines as we're creating.
Right. If you feel like you really need a grid, you can in fact turn the grid back on. There's a little button down here at the bottom for grid, and you can have the grid come back on if it helps you visualize. It's more a personal preference than anything else. You can also adjust the grid settings. If you right-click on them and go to grid settings, you can choose whether, here's your grid, your X grid spacing at what level it's going to be, major and minor grid lines, etc. So if you wanted your grid spacing at 1 foot, for example, and your Y grid spacing at 1 foot, major grid lines every 5 feet or something like that. As you zoom in, you'll get the 1 foot. And so that would be 5 feet. That would be 25 square feet inside the big grid, if you wanted it. Some people work really well with the grids. Some people don't need to work with the grids. It's up to you. Okay? So I'm going to restart if there aren't any other questions, and I'll see if I can get the Google Earth to actually open for me. All right, so I apologize for that. I don't know why it wouldn't open. So when you double-click that file, you get there's a little pin that's approximately where our site would be. When you're looking at Google Earth, as you zoom in, it'll try to stick you into the little valley here. And obviously you can see that the trees have been kind of cut out as rough little triangles and that sort of thing. We're looking right now, as they zoom into the site, south. So if I zoom out, that would be toward the south. So if we were lining up with our topography, where north would be up, we would need to swing this around this direction to be looking north. And you can see that compass in the upper right corner here. And so now we'd be looking at this site down to the north. So as I zoom in here, we kind of sneak in behind these ridge lines here, right down into the flats. And that's where your building site is, right in here. You can see that the terrain goes up to the side here, and it's relatively flat on that side, which matches up nicely with the AutoCAD file. Let me open that AutoCAD file just so that we can reference it here. All right, so this is that AutoCAD file that I'm looking at. This line that I told you was the creek corresponds to the creek that goes right through there. All right. The flats are here. This starting to get to this steep hill is the edge of our site. There are a bunch of little tiny picture icons that are available for you to click on, and you can kind of get a sense for what's happening. So there's a picture of the creek, for example. You know, and I'm clicking at these somewhat randomly. So you'll have to click around and kind of see what's going on there. If, by the way, anybody ever hiked Half Dome before? Nobody's hiked Half Dome? Really? Wow. All right. So this should probably be on your list to do someday, right? If you were hiking Half Dome, you'd arrive in the valley of Yosemite here. You'd walk up past our building site. You'd work your way around and up through the canyons here, and way around here, up to this side here, and then you'd work your way up. This part right here is the part everybody always freaks out about. So there's the lower dome, which is a bunch of stairs, and then you get to the upper dome. And for the upper dome, there's a bunch of cables that you have to follow to get up the side. There you go. There's cables with a bunch of people on them. This must be a popular day. When I did it, it was in October, and it wasn't quite this popular. But essentially, there's cables that run up either side so that you don't fall off. There you go. There's the cables. You can see just the cables running up, and you work your way up. There are parts where you're kind of climbing out over rocks to get up over where you are. So the cables definitely help. Very, very cool view from the top. Obviously, you're right on the edge of Half Dome. Everybody always likes to stand out on this little point here that sticks out. I will be honest, I was only able to stick my feet over the edge. That was as far as I could get. So I think they say it's at least 1,000 feet straight down without any rocks in your way before it starts to slope away from you. Being out on this point to take that mandatory photo is really freaky, for whatever it's worth. What? No roads. We'll assume there's actually a little hiking path to get there. So anyway, that Half Dome doesn't have anything to do with it. There you go. There's a nice picture of Half Dome. That gives you a sense. Very iconic mountain in Yosemite. Yeah. Hold on one second. What?
Are you going to grade on the location and the field that we take on display on AutoCAD?
Just the building itself and the AutoCAD and that sort of thing. So anyway, did you have another question, comment? No.
If it's a half, what is the other?
I don't know. A glacier took away that half. Anyway, so there's your building site. Sorry to get you off on that side tangent with Half Dome, but it gives you some perspective of where you are. If we're looking at the views from the building site, obviously if you swing yourself around and kind of look up a bit, you can get a sense for what the surrounding mountains are. And we could swing our view, side to side, and you get kind of a little sense of what's going on. The main Yosemite Village and stuff is down below you. We'll swing around. Don't need to cut myself through Half Dome. Yeah. There we go. I got stuck on half dome, sorry. Anyway, so play around with that, give yourself a little bit of a sense. It's important to know what north and south are so you know which direction your building's facing. The north side of your building is the side that has the view, so you want to make sure that that's the side that has the windows on it. It happens to be convenient because you can get large windows without big solar heat gains without a problem. Yeah. There's a little compass up in the upper right corner, and so if I wanted my view to be looking toward the north, this view here is the same direction as the AutoCAD drawing there. So it's sloping down away from us as we go up on the page. So if I was looking at our building site here, there's our building site. The high point is closest to us, and it slopes down toward the valley away from us. Okay, so I'm gonna let you guys get started on this. The more you draw today, the better you'll be. So you have got a lot of time to work on this, and that's the goal. We will talk next class about improving line weights, layers, and all that sort of thing. We'll ultimately get into how do you draw the building elevations from your floor plans, and then we'll get into exporting and getting quality drawings out of it. Are there any questions? No? All right.